So I have an idea. What if I interviewed you about your childhood? I mean, if you're comfortable with it, I think it's good to reflect on our time on this earth and familiarize ourselves with our own, personal history. It's good not to forget this kind of stuff. Plus, it would let me kind of get to know you on a more personal level, which would be really cool. So, are you cool with that? Good. I was kind of counting on it. I have a ton of questions lined up for you already. And if you don't mind, I think I'm going to take some notes as well. Is that cool? Yeah. Okay. And I'll probably throw some of my own answers in there just to keep things a little conversational so it doesn't feel so much like an interrogation. And just to give you good examples of what I'm looking for in your answers, okay? So let's start way at the beginning, before you were even born. How did your parents pick your name? Was it like from a baby book, or were you named after a family member? Alright, and when and where were you born? No, I know your birthday. It's just for the interview. Yeah. Okay. It's good to know. Okay. Did you grow up in the same place that you were born? Right. How many times did you move? I never left the state that I was born in, but I did hop around quite a lot and ended up in the suburbs eventually, so. Yeah, cool. And, do you have any siblings? Are you an only child? Right. And what's the age gap there between you and your siblings? I am an oldest child, so yeah. And did you get along with your siblings growing up? I know that age difference can really have an impact on how your relationship is with your siblings when you're a kid, but right. Yeah, that's pretty normal, I'd say. Okay. Well, that is good to know. So, did you have a nickname growing up? Oh. And where did you get that from? Like, how'd that come to be? Right, yeah. Yeah, I had a nickname that only my family called me, and also like close family friends, and it was just because when I was a toddler I couldn't say my own name correctly, so then everybody just started calling me what I called myself, and it stuck, and it's still sticking to this day. Right. So let's talk about friends. Who were your best friends growing up? Yeah, what were their names? And how did you meet each one of them? You can just go down the. Right. Okay. Yeah, just like at the park, at swim team. I don't know. Yeah, and what did you do with those friends growing up? Like, what did you guys do when you hung out? Like, for example, I had a friend who we would just spend most of our time together walking around in the woods and jumping on the trampoline. We used to like sleep on the trampoline almost every night that her mom would let us. So just stuff like that. What did you get up to with your friends? about with your siblings? What did you like to do with your siblings? Hmm. Oh. Right. Oh, okay. Have you kept in touch with any of your childhood friends? Yeah, I mean, that's not so much a question about your childhood, but just wanted to follow up after asking so much about them. Okay. Now, let's see. What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a kid? Oh, yeah. Yeah, what did you think your life was going to be like? Aside from just your occupation, did you have any aspirations that you thought that your life would lead you to when you were younger? Yeah. Yeah, I remember I wanted to open an orphanage. I fully believed that I was gonna have like 16 kids and own an orphanage. Because, first of all, I watched Annie, and second of all, like, every lead character in children's media is always an orphan for some reason. So, I don't know, I'm sure that's where that came from, but I don't own an orphanage, and I don't have any children, so. Okay. Are there any childhood stories that your family, like, always tells? Right. Yeah. And how about let's talk about school a little bit. Did you enjoy school as a kid? Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, well, what was your favorite grade then? What was your favorite year in school? Do you have one? Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I'd have to say probably I can't even decide. I definitely enjoyed my high school years a lot, so probably like my freshman and sophomore year. And then maybe like seventh grade, something like that. I don't know. I liked school when I was in elementary, but no year particularly sticks out to me, so I don't know. Did you have any like favorite teachers or teachers that you just remember they really stuck with you? Or you could also share a bad experience with a teacher. Right. Uh-huh. Now for the real question, did you get good grades in school? Yeah. Oh. Alright, yeah. Alright, so back to the more personal stuff. What is your earliest memory? Like, what is your first memory you can think of? Interesting. How that stuck with you. Yeah, my earliest memories, I was pretty young, probably like 3, maybe 4. I remember playing with my baby brother. And I have a couple different memories of that just like are in my brain for no particular reason. reason. But some of them I can't remember if they were dreams or if they were actual memories, so who knows. I know for a lot of people, their earliest memories is kind of retroactively planted in their minds from seeing like pictures, but I feel like a genuine first memory has to be like independent of that. So yeah, that's interesting. So did you have a like comfort toy? I don't know what you would call it, like a favorite teddy bear or a blankie or anything like that growing up, like a security stuffy? Okay. And did you have a name for it? Yeah, I had a stuffed animal and a blanket that I brought around with me. Do you still have those today? Hmm. I still have my stuffed animal, but I lost the blanket long ago. And that is such like a core memory for me where I like had a consciousness moment of like I'm growing up because I lost the blanket and my parents were like panicked looking for it, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't need it. I'm a big kid. I don't need the blanket anymore. Yeah. Okie doke. Did you have any pets growing up? Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, and then sorry, we're bouncing around a little bit here, but let's go back to school. What was your favorite subject in school? It's okay if it changed over time, just, fill me in. What was your favorite subject? Right. No, like lunch doesn't count, recess doesn't count, but like art could count, something along those lines. Or PE, I know some people would answer gym. Okay, aside from the stuffed animal blanket that we just discussed, did you have any particular favorite toys that you would play with all the time? What about imaginary games? Were there specific imaginary games you would always play? For example, I would always play house, and sometimes I would play church with my siblings and like close family friends, or we would pretend that we were orphans because it's always with the orphans. Alright, that's funny. Yeah, imaginative play is like so interesting with how creative kids are, Well, let's see. What like shows or movies you think are like representative of your childhood? Like you watched them all the time, or like you associate them very strongly with childhood? Yeah, you can list a few. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah. No, for me, it would probably be like Blue's Clues, Disney Cinderella, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs in my a tad bit older years. But those are like the main ones that pop into my brain. Okay, then. How did you celebrate birthdays with your family? Some families don't really do much at all. Okay. Interesting. And what was the one of the most memorable ones? It doesn't, you don't have to pick a favorite, but tell me about a very memorable birthday you had growing up. Oh, that's so fun. Oh, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I see that why that one could stick with you. Let's see. Were there any things your family did growing up for like religious or cultural events? Mm. Right, so like an example would be like, did you go to church on Sundays or yeah. Yeah, no, I went to like a non-denominational Christian church growing up, but for some reason we always had Passover dinner. Like, so that's something that I remember going to every year. Alrighty then. I want you to think of the house that you grew up in, or at the very least the one you spent the most time in growing up. I want you to picture that for me. Okay, now, how many rooms did it have? Bedrooms, let's say bedrooms. Okay. And then, did you have your own bedroom, or did you share one with like a sibling or something? Okay, and this might be a bit more of a challenging one, but I want you to try your best to describe to me what it looked like. When you picture it in your brain, maybe it changed colors of the walls throughout the year, but when you think childhood bedroom, what pops into your brain? Yeah, get detailed with it. Interesting. Yeah, when I was really young, like the main thing that sticks out to me when I think of a childhood bedroom was when I was really, really little. My mom was an artist, was really into painting, and she painted like a mural on my wall of the Princess and the Frog. Like I remember being a little painting of a frog with a crown on his head, and she like painted words like a story on the wall, on pink walls. It was so cool. She never did anything else like that in my future bedrooms, but I also remember I had like one of those mesh canopies above my bed. You know what I'm talking about, the ones that hang from the ceiling. I thought that thing was so cool. I felt like a princess. But apparently those things hold a lot of dust, so my mom eventually got rid of it. But I guess this isn't about me. Let me look at the next question. Let's see. Okay, what are some songs that you heavily associate with your childhood? Huh. Yeah, a lot. I know a lot of people do it either because like it's a song their mom and dad would always listen to, mom and or dad, or would always sing to them, or maybe you just heard it a lot on the radio growing up, or it was your favorite song. Like, there's different reasons music sticks with us. But if that kind of inspires you to think of some. Yeah, it's always so interesting to hear this from other people, like what makes them nostalgic, because nostalgia is something so precious and incredibly specific to different people. And that's something so cool about siblings, is You guys, like, that's some of the only people that will ever understand the nostalgia you have for a particular thing in the exact particular way you have it, you know? It's always the worst, though, when you remember something so vividly and you're, like, trying to get a family member to be like, hello, do you remember this? And they just don't, and you're like, this felt so integral to me as a child, and you don't even remember it. You know what I'm saying? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so, what was your happy place as a child? Like, what was the place you felt the most comfortable, or the most, like, you had the most fun? Some people it was just their bedroom, some people it was, I don't know, the gymnastics studio they went to, but what was the place you just loved to be as a child? Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Shoot, what was the next one? Oh, right. What were your, like, obsessions growing up? You know, kids have a couple fixations they go through in their life. What were some of those obsessions you went through? Yeah, that's definitely something I miss about being young, is like how infatuated and obsessed you could become with a particular thing. Like, I could really use to have something to be that obsessed with now. Let's see. I was obsessed with princesses, namely Cinderella, like I mentioned earlier. I'm trying to think. I went through all sorts of stuff. High School Musical, and when I was a bit older and Teen Beach Movie came out, I was big on musicals, obviously. Yeah, I'm trying to think, but that's all that's coming to mind right now. Okay. Do you, remember any fads from your youth? Like, my example would be silly bands. When I was really young, silly bands were a big deal, and then later on, rainbow loom bracelets. Like, what are some that stick out to you? Sorry if I stole your answer. It's okay if you don't remember any, but yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember that. That's crazy. I totally forgot. Okay, so what was something you wanted as a child and you never got it, and like you were just fixated on it? You know, the classic one is like, Mom, I want a pony. But for other people, it was, I wanted this bike, and my parents never got it for me. I wanted, for example, one for me is I always wanted one of those little electric cars that kids can drive around, and I was so, like, irritated that when my friend got one, because my parents were just like, no, we're not spending money on that. So what about you? No. That's so funny. Oh. Okay. So did you have a close relationship with your parents growing up? We don't have to dive too much into this if you don't want to, but just describe that a little bit for me. How was your relationship with them? Yeah. Huh. No, for sure. Yeah. And would you describe your childhood as a happy time for you? For example, for me personally, I went through some pretty horrible stuff when I was a kid. Like, I had a pretty rough childhood, but I don't remember it that way at all. Only reflecting on it in adulthood have I realized how much it affected me, because I was just a kid. I was very oblivious to, why something would be right or wrong. I was just chilling. I liked princesses. So, what about you? It's kind of. I know that's a little bit touchy. I'm sorry if I'm poking anything that I shouldn't be, but. Right, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, what about your grandparents? Were your grandparents alive growing up? And did you have a close relationship with them, if so? Yeah. What about great-grandparents? Were any of your great-grandparents alive when you were? So, back on the subject of parents, I want you to think about your mother or your mother figure, if you had one, and tell me, what are a few random things you associate with your mom in your childhood when you were growing up? For example, my mom always wore the colors green and gray. I always associate that with my mom during my childhood. And she wore the same perfume she wore, Calvin Klein's Obsession. And so that's another heavy association of like my childhood that she doesn't do as much anymore. Yeah. Oh. Okay. And what about your father or your father figure, whether that means, you lived with grandpa or an uncle or whatever? What is something you associate with them? Right. And were your parents together? I don't know if I asked, but. Oh, right, yeah. Okay, great. And as a closing question, here's a big one. If you could say anything to your childhood self, what would you tell them? Yeah, that's good. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that was great. That's it. You've done a great job, really. I feel like I know so much more about you, and hopefully you know more about you now, that you've revisited some of this stuff. So yeah, great job. I hope we can do something like this again soon. I'll talk to you later.